Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jamie, and tonight, Musique Royale presents Dani and Timi in Gulliver's Travels and Beyond. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're recording this featurette today on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of Mi'kma'ki, home of the Mi'kmaq people from time immemorial. We're very fortunate to live, work, and play on this land and to record wonderful music that we can share with all of you. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Musique Royale's 36th Summer Festival, as always, features early music concerts across various historic venues in Nova Scotia. All of these featurettes that we've recorded over the past 18 months have been provided for free. And as always, we are accepting donations. The information for this is in the description of this video and available on Facebook and various other social media platforms. Today, we come to you from Ottawa House by the Sea, which is the historic home of Sir Charles Tupper. And I'm standing here in the Marine Room. I think it's just wonderful that we're about to tell a story of seafaring with so many wonderful artifacts just behind me of the seafaring generations past. I'd like you to imagine that the COVID lockdowns happened 250 years ago. Gone are the Zoom meetings, Netflix specials, Instagram stories, skip the dishes orders, and FaceTime calls on screens of all shapes and sizes. Imagine a time when a room's only ambient noise might have been the wind outside the windows, or the scuttle of a mouse across the wooden floors. Imagine a time when the only glowing object you could fit in the palm of your hand was a candlestick. This is the world we bring you today. Both of these composers lived and worked in the Baroque era, a time that was vastly different from our own. You've already heard Carl Stamitz's wonderful sonata for two violins, and now we move on to our centerpiece, George Telemann's Gulliver's Travels. Gulliver's Travels, both the Telemann composition and the famous Jonathan Swift novel on which it's based, attempt to parody the popular genre of traveler's tales from this time period. It asks its readers to experience such thrilling adventures vicariously through its resourceful and daring protagonist. And just as the 18th century layperson was seldom able to travel far, or just as you and I have been restricted in our movements over the past 18 months, Telemann's piece offers us the chance to visit strange and distant shores without ever venturing far from home. His piece unfolds in a short introductory movement, followed by 4 subsequent movements that each correspond to sections of the novel. In Gulliver's Travels, the listener takes a sonic journey through diverse soundscapes that each, in their way, evoke the novel's exotic landscapes and bizarre scenes of action. I'm so excited to take you along on this journey. We meet Gulliver in England. He's an aristocrat, a surgeon, and an experienced seafarer who thirsts for new adventures. He sets out on the first of his 4 journeys in 1699, arriving on the apparently deserted island of Lilliput, where he soon falls asleep in the grass near the shore. In one of the novel's most iconic scenes, he wakes to find his body bound in thread, held captive by a race of people unlike any he has ever seen. Gulliver tells us, "In a little time, I felt something alive moving on my left leg, which, advancing gently forward over my breast, came almost up to my chin when, bending my eyes downward as much as I could, I perceived it to be a human creature, not 2 inches high, with a bow and arrow in his hands and a quiver at his back. In the meantime, I felt at least 40 more of the same kind, as I conjectured, following the first. I was in the utmost astonishment, and roared so loud that they all ran back in a fright, and some of them were hurt from their falls, leaping from my sides upon the ground." On the island of Brobdingnag, the very small is replaced with the extraordinarily large, as Gulliver encounters a farmer who, by his best estimate, stands over 70 feet tall. He writes, "He appeared as tall as an ordinary church steeple, and took about 10 yards at every stride, as near as I could guess. I was struck with the utmost fear and astonishment, and ran to hide in the corn, whence I saw him at the top of the fence-stile, looking back into the next field, and heard him call in a voice many degrees louder than a speaking trumpet. But the noise was so high in the air that at first I certainly thought it was thunder." Next, we meet, upon a flying island high among the clouds, a band of impractical intellectuals who revere such useless pastimes as music and math, but remain so inattentive to the immediate world that they require servants called flappers to hit them with stuffed bags in order to rouse them from their daydreams and force them back to reality. According to Gulliver, this flapper is likewise employed diligently to attend his master in his walks, and upon occasion to give him a soft flap on the eyes, because he is always so wrapped up in cogitation that he is in manifest danger of falling down every precipice and bouncing his head against every post. Behold the yahoos! Their heads and breasts were covered with a thick hair, some frizzled, and others lank. They had beards like goats, and a long ridge of hair down their backs. They had no tails, nor any hair at all on their buttocks. Upon the whole, I never beheld in all my travels so disagreeable an animal, or one against which I naturally conceived so strong an antipathy. And the Hoyen hymns. Upon the whole, the behavior of these animals was so orderly and rational, so acute and judicious, that I, at last, concluded they must needs be magicians who had thus metamorphosized themselves upon some design.
I'm Edward Gilbert. I was a tour guide here at Ottawa House. I used to be the carpenter, but they promoted me. Ottawa House was named by Charles Tupper. So Charles Tupper had great interest in this place. The house originally, in the part that we're in now, was once a private home. It was built here at the island probably about 1784 or 85. Likely by Elijah Lawrence, but we're not certain yet who was the builder. We have rebuilt the Ottawa House not only to show it as it was in the olden days, but also to preserve the history and the artifacts that we've gathered up in this area. Almost everything in this place has been donated, mostly by local people. For instance, in this room here, we've gathered up all our most of our marine stuff. We have other rooms in which we have the tools that we use to build the ships and used to cut the lumber. We have other rooms that show the costumes that were worn in those days and some of the old furniture. Other places show the maids' rooms and where they kept the linens and such that they had to have here to run this place as a hotel. We have a little room here made up as a schoolroom, which shows the old school that used to be here at the island, where my grandfather went to school and all his siblings. We have a marine library. If anybody wants to study anything about the sea, they can make arrangements with our curator and he'll take them into the library and they can research there. We have another room in here. This side we call the Charles Tupper room. Charles Tupper used to be a surgeon before he became a politician. He was a doctor and surgeon, and we have some of his artifacts there. We have a few we have pictures of Sir Charles and his wife, Frances, she was Frances Morse, and his daughter. And downstairs we have artifacts from the Hadley Page, and we have pictures of the bombers crashed here during the war. We have a great variety of things that we have gathered up here in the community to represent what has the history that has gone on here since this place was first settled in 1778. This was the crossing place for all the traffic coming from the rest of Nova Scotia up to the border area. Both those places were settled, but there was no settlement here. All the traffic had to come through here, so eventually they needed a proper ferry. There were soldiers coming through here, there were settlers, there was businessmen, and of course government officials. After the smaller ferries proved inadequate, they had to have bigger ones. They needed a bigger hotel. A man by the name of James Ratchford had been a merchant here for several years. Two of his brothers bought this house, and they bought the Shannon store, which sat just to the east of it. They moved it up against the house, and they built a piece on the other side, on the east, what we call the west end of the house. And they had themselves about a 10 or 12 room hotel. And they kept this place as a hotel for quite a few years. I'm not too sure how long, but eventually they had roads built. And as they had roads built, the traffic diminished. They weren't bringing cattle through this way anymore, so they didn't have cattle drovers. And most people, the officers and so on, would travel by road. It was much cheaper than a ferry. The brothers were getting old, and they sold the place to Charles Tupper, who was the premier then, for a summer home. And Charles kept it for quite a few years. Eventually he got elected to Ottawa, and he sold it to the Spring Hill Coal Company. The Spring Hill Coal Company did quite a lot of renovations here, and they kept it at their headquarters for about 20 years or so. And at that time, with the Spring Hill Coal coming to Parrsboro, Parrsboro and Spring Hill became both very prosperous towns. But this place, after the Spring Hill Coal Company were through with it, they decided that it wasn't worth, since they weren't shipping coal in Parrsboro, or very much coal in Parrsboro anymore, they decided that to get rid of it, and they sold it. And they sold it to a sea captain. And he was here for about 3 years before he died in an accident, but he was rumored to have brought illegal rum ashore here. Now, we don't know if that was so, but it's possible. But at any rate, he kept this place as a summer hotel for about 3 years, then sold it to the Seaman family. And they did away with any of that alcoholic stuff, but they used it as a summer home. And as a summer hotel, they would run it probably about 8 months of the year. And after them, the Wheatons bought it. The Wheatons were a family in town from Parrsboro who owned a store up there. They were very popular folks here. They ran a summer home, summer hotel, and they lived here, of course. And a lot of people used to come here for their honeymoons, they come here for their vacations, and so on. It became quite well known. It passed through a couple more hands, and the last owners decided they would sell it. They had it advertised as far as New York, and the local people, especially us history buffs, were afraid that it would be sold, torn down, and replaced with something new. So we prevailed on our local member to buy it, George Henley, and he bought it and turned it over to us to run as a tourist attraction. It was in really bad shape then, but over the years we managed to build it up and make it into the place it is today. And we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish.